Hi, I'd like to welcome you to the Saluda Historic Depot Museum located in beautiful downtown Saluda, North Carolina in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The original thought was that Charleston was a port. All the products came into the port of Charleston. They sent their products by wagon train or wagon up to the Ohio River Valley. That was the big industrial area in the United States. So they wanted a way to get their products inexpensively and efficiently to each other. So they came up with the idea of the railroad. When the railroad finally made it up to Tryon, they had to come from Tryon up the mountain some way. So they had two choices. They had where I-26 is now, which would have required 11 miles more track, more bridges, tunnels, or they could come up the way they did up the Piedmont, the Rocky Piedmont, to Saluda. So they had determined that to go up to the I-26 area, the ground was unstable. So they felt back in the 1880s that the best way to come up here was through the watershed, through the mountain. That grade was 5%. It took them 1 year to go from the city of Tryon up here to Saluda. The train arrived in July 4th, 1879. The city of Saluda was incorporated in 1881. In 1893, we had 40,000 passengers come through. They discovered at that time that they could breathe better, they could sleep at night. It was a very healthy environment. We have a lot of ozone up here. By 1896, we had 72,000. In 1903, we had 321,000 passengers come through here in 1 year. Saluda was on the map at that point. The Saluda grade is a 5% incline. That is the steepest mainline commercial railway in the United States. A really steep mainline railroad would be 2%. Because of that, we had a lot of accidents here on the Saluda grade, building it and running it. In 1903, when this depot was built, there were 3 really bad accidents. The first accident was in July. The engineer did survive. His name was Pit Ballou. He broke his back. He was in the hospital in Asheville. By September, there was 2 other accidents, one in August and one in September. The Southern Railway decided at that point in time that if we want to continue to use the Saluda grade, we had to find ways to make it safer so that we don't have as much loss of life and as much loss of equipment and product. So Pit Ballou, who was in the hospital in Asheville, came up with the idea of a runaway track. It was basically a reverse incline of 10% that allowed the train to go up that track and stop. So they put it in, and it was put in a matter of 3 months. There were no more accidents after that. The default was to set the track to the runaway track. The engineer, upon leaving Saluda, would blow the whistle twice to let the switchman know that, okay, I'm in control. And then they would switch it over to the main line, which would allow them to continue on down the mountain on the track. You'll notice that the truck runaways today on the highways look very similar to the runaway tracks on the Saluda grade. So that was very successful. As I said before, we had 321,000 passengers come through in 1903. That year, they built this bigger depot, and it was 1/4 mile down the track. At that point, in 1984, they had moved this decommissioned depot to this site. At that point in time, this building was painted the traditional Southern Railway gray. Everything was painted gray in the 60s, basically. A couple of years after it was moved, they scraped down to find out what the original colors were, and it was returned to the original colors that it was at the turn of the century, at the 1900s. It was yellow gold on the outside with green trim and red trim. It has been restored to that. This building is on the National Register of Historic Places.
So Mike, when was the last passenger train in Saluda?
The last passenger train was the Carolina Special. It came through here in 1968. The last freight train came through here in 2001.
So today it's a museum.
Yes,
Mike,
it is.
Okay, so why should people come visit this museum?
Well, We became a museum 8 years ago. Our mission is to preserve and present the history of Saluda and the relevance of the railroad to the city of Saluda. We're a nonprofit. We have, as being a museum, many items that were original to this museum have been returned to the museum. We have the original benches, we have the original train board, the original ticket master desk and chair, we have the original ticket windows. The interior is exactly as it was when it was decommissioned in 1968. We have a diorama in Z-scale that is exactly shaped like what the Saluda grade is, and it's 5% grade. We have it depicted in the transition era, which is the 40s. We have videos of what the Saluda grade looks like today. We had a gentleman come down from Michigan doing a study, and we have a drone video that shows what it looks like today, as well as the history of the grade put together, and that is on our website. We have a presentation that we do yearly, which is called Night at the Museum, where we dress up in costume and present all the individuals that were involved in the building of the Saluda grade, as well as the way it developed over the years with the accidents. We have many historic railroad memorabilia. We have lanterns, we have headlights, we have historic photographs, we have historic uniforms, we have copies of the menus that were used on the Southern Railway. We do numerous other projects. We have a fundraiser coming up in April where we will be presenting a dinner from a menu that was utilized on the Saluda grade. On the third Friday of every month, it's called Train Tales. We have people come in and present a program that has some relevance to the railway. Last month we had a gentleman come from Chapel Hill and presented a program on women in telegraphy. The telegraph was basically developed for the railroad, which allowed them to tell the different towns when the train would be coming through. This was before they standardized the railroad time and the 4 time zones.
In addition to the museum, what else can you tell me about the town of Saluda?
The Saluda Depot Museum is unique in that it is strongly based on the history and the preservation of the railroad history and the history of Saluda. Saluda itself is a unique town. It is 3 blocks long on one side with a railroad track and then a park on the other side. We have restaurants, we have inns, we have bed and breakfast, we have the Green River, which is a very popular outdoor sport. We've got the zip line, we've got so many things for you to see here when you come to Saluda.
It's a small town. You only have like 700 people that live here, right?
Yes, we only have 700 full-time people living here.
It is a very active community. There's something going on all the time.
Saluda is basically packed every weekend. People are busy wandering the streets, visiting the different shops, visiting the different restaurants, visiting the museum, visiting the sweet shop. We're a very active town, pretty much most of the year.
Mike, thanks for telling us about the museum, a little bit about the town.
Well, thank you, Mark, for coming in, and everybody watching, please come up and visit Saluda, come in and see the depot, come in and see the sights.
And you may get to meet Mike.
You may get to meet Mike.
That would be a highlight. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mark.
This is Mark. Thanks for watching The Country Life with Columbus Mark. Please subscribe, share, like, comment, and all of those other things. Welcome to my neighborhood, wherever that might be.